Hey, y'all. Welcome back to episode 3. And today I have nobody because my guest canceled 24 hours before the show. And sometimes in life we have to pivot. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to pivot, and I'm going to talk to y'all not only about that, but just about a little bit about who I am. My name is Sherrie. I'm from Detroit. Everyone knows that. And I guess what I would want to do is get to know me. I am somebody that is very uncomfortable, fun fact, sitting here. I don't like this. It is out of my comfort zone. When I met the girls, Jen and Nushin, and they had this great idea, I was very, very uncomfortable with it. I do not like being in front of the camera. I like to be behind the camera. And I think maybe getting out of your comfort zone is something we all need to practice and do. So here we go. But what I do need y'all to do for this episode is everyone needs to share it and like it, because when people say no to coming on because maybe we're not big enough, why don't I am a big believer in proving people wrong. So help me out. Subscribing is free and sharing is free. So I always say a couple things you can do to friends in business, whether you're my friend, you're my virtual friend, or you're family in real life, or I've known you along the way. Please hit subscribe, click on the YouTube link, and just hit share. That's all I need for you to do to help me out, because the next time someone says no, we just say next. And that's what we're going to do. So I was born and raised in South Detroit. Went to Michigan State University and Wayne State University. Go Green! And I grew up, very normal, not a lot of money, in a very blue collar town. Graduated with 106 of us, so I pretty much know every person that was in my graduating class. So from growing from such a small town to Michigan State was a bit of a shock. But I've just made so many amazing connections along the way. I was 19 years old my freshman year at state when my ex-boyfriend, obviously not my ex-boyfriend, but my college boyfriend's mother was in a network marketing company called Arbonne. So if you haven't heard of Arbonne, it's similar to a Mary Kay, a Tupperware, an Amway. And I remember he said, "Sherrie, we have to go to this car presentation because my mom's getting a Mercedes." And I was like, Mercedes? What do you mean? Keep in mind, I'm a freshman at Michigan State, living in the dorms. I worked in the call center, and I also worked in the cafeteria to get free food. So that's what I was doing my freshman year. And Jordan, his name was Jordan, he said, my mom is, she does, I had already used the makeup, let me be clear, and the skincare. I was actually sending a lot of my friends to her because it was clearing up my skin. And, when you're in college and you want to have confidence and you're kind of broke, so in my head, I was like, wow, I could get a new car too. So it was July 12th. I remember this because my birthday is July 13th. And we went to this amazing, grand car presentation at Mercedes Benz in Michigan, in Novi. It's a suburb of Detroit. And I saw Judy get the keys to this car, and it was such an amazing vibe. I was like, okay. So, the next day I was at their house and I said, "Hey, Judy, how did you get that car? Did you make money off of, like, me or my friends or who were buying this product?" I didn't know. Keep in mind, I was still 19. And she said, "Yeah, I did classes at home, and I have to do so many sales, and I just teach people how to do what I do." Okay. I was like, "Well, what'd you do?" So she told me, she's like, "Well, here's the blueprint." And this is where I think it's so important. She said to me, I did 6 parties at I called friends. And if y'all know, about network marketing. You do your parties at home. And let me just rewind it a minute. This is before you could order product online. So we were actually faxing in orders. It was 2002 to order skincare, lipstick, makeup, whatever it may be. So she told me she did 6 parties a month, and I said, "Okay." And in my mind, I was like, "Okay, it took her a year to get this car. If I triple that, I can get it in half the time." That was literally my mindset at the time because it was a numbers game to me. My first month in that July, I think I did 16 parties, because also in my mind was that Monday through Thursday, I wasn't doing anything from 5 to 7 or 7 to 9 p.m. at night. Why not go make money? 6 months later, I got my Mercedes. It was on December 10th of 2000, not 2022, 2002. Got my first Mercedes. I ended up getting 3 Mercedes from that company and became the youngest executive regional vice president in the world in the fastest amount of time anyone had ever done that. At the time, I didn't know that was a weird thing. I didn't really realize that it was not normal to promote that fast in a company like that. But I called myself ignorance on fire. And I'm kind of grateful for that. Because one of the things I think we do is we get in our own way. When I was 19, I did not care what people thought. I did not care if someone didn't like me. I didn't even care if they didn't buy the product because I just knew someone else would. And I knew it was a great product and I believed in it. So I was a sophomore in college driving a brand new Mercedes. It was a little two-seater convertible. And, it was fun. It was cool. And I had no idea what I was doing. But I knew that if I followed a plan that someone else had already proven to be successful, that I could do the same. There was really no difference between myself and Judy at the time, except for she was, 30 years older than me and had more experience than me. However, I knew that I could follow directions and I knew that someone else had been successful before me. So took that and ran with it. When I was 23, I graduated college and began also in college, I worked with UCA, Universal Cheerleading Association, that is also owned by Nike. So on the summers in between school, I would go to all the Big Ten campuses and run the cheerleading camps. It was fun. It was so much fun. I did it for 2 years. And, I kind of, between that and Arbonne, I was very busy. I was taking summer classes because I graduated college in 3.5 years with a double major. And I was super ambitious. A big reason for that is my mom. She always helped me. She was always supportive of me, doing more, doing extra, seeing what I could do. And I really believe that that took me into where I am today. So fast forward to 2006 when I was graduating college, and I was volunteering at some NFL football camps. And at that time, I had no company. So yeah, I started volunteering at NFL football camps mostly because I just missed the athletic aspect and sporting aspect. In my mind, I thought, I've worked at all these cheerleading camps across the country. I could absolutely work and volunteer at a football camp. I may not know how to coach football, but I do know how to run a camp. So after a year of volunteering, one of the former Detroit Lions players asked me the following year, he said, "Hey, what's your company? I want to pay you. I want to hire you for this." And I said, I don't have one. And he said, "Hey, I own this website called Boost One Marketing. Do you want it?" Sure. And that's how Boost One Marketing started. And that's the company I own. I was 23, living in my parents' basement and really just trying to figure out my way. I never had partners in this business. I never had a investor, but what I did had and what I know I was willing to do is work harder than anybody else. And 16 years later, I'm still willing to work harder than anyone else. And I truly believe that when you have a standard of what you expect, your expectations and your goals, that everyone around you will rise up to meet the standard. So that's how I started. Started working, had, little clients here and there. And you guys heard, if you've followed along at all, how I met Steven in 2011. And he was a big pivoting moment for my business. He believed in me, him, Nate Burleson, Derek Williams. Those guys were guys that truly, truly believed in me and trusted me with their brands, even though I was young. They trusted me. And so, one thing I've always learned is that we have to be able to adapt and we have to be able to pivot. So, in 2012, 13, I'm sorry, 2013, I came to Houston, Texas for the first time. That's where this is being recorded out of, and that's now where I live. However, I got here by way of my ex. He was good for something and ended up meeting some wonderful people. After we separated in 2017, I really honed in on wanting to build a business here. Random and fun fact, the first 6 months after him and I broke up, I had nowhere to live in Houston. So what I would do is I would come here. I had like 2 or 3 clients here, and nobody knew this. So y'all are about to know something that not very many people know is that I would rent a car and rent like a bedroom at an Airbnb. Now, looking back, probably not the safest or smartest decision to do. But I would actually live out of Airbnbs when I was here for 7 to 10 days a month and work 12 to 15 hours a day to build my business, to meet new people, to network, and to really grow. So that's how we got here. There's no shortcuts, I think, in winning. I think that you have to put the work in no matter what you do. If you're not willing to put the work in, it's just not going to work out. I know that people are big believers of, oh, you have to step away, you have to do this. But my thing is, are you where you want to be to allow yourself to step away? Are you there? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe you're almost there. But I really can't stress enough that that year I locked in then I got a little one bedroom apartment with a blow up mattress and I slept on a blow up mattress for almost a year here in Houston because I wasn't, wanting to spend the money or even had the money to spend on that. So I would still be renting cars for like the little tiniest car you could get. And like the $28 Escort, you could get from Costco. I would rent that and just even keep the suitcase in the trunk of the car. And this was just 2017, 18 here. So now we're fast forward to 2025 and things are a little different. And I do attest that to just surrounding myself with such great people, the relationships I built, and hard work. So, what I'm going to do today, since we have to pivot, and sometimes you have to make something great out of nothing, because at about 10:30 yesterday morning, I got a call that the guest was canceling on me. The girls are behind the camera and I had an event last night that's questions were submitted to about business, about growing your business. So I'm going to let the girls ask me questions and answer them, and hopefully they'll be beneficial to y'all. So here we go. I think I wish people knew that you are not owed anything. No one's owed a network. No one is owed a favor. No one is owed like what I have or what you have. We're not owed anything, right? Those things are earned and they're built. And people will spend money with you if they know, like, and trust you. If they don't do those three things, and if you don't generate those three things, if you don't, massage those three things, if you don't grow and water those things to build a genuine relationship, that's not a network. I know that there's great women in my network that I can call if I need help or if I have an opportunity. It goes both ways. So I think the mistake people make when they want to build a network is that they think that that network is there to only help them. Why are you there? Are you helping anybody? Because a lot of times people will go into an event, they will go into a speaking engagement, they'll go to something that they're going to network. And the only thing they think in their head is, who can I meet and how can I help myself here? But have you thought about who can I meet and how can we build a relationship? Who can I meet and then we can help each other? Or who could I help? Because you never know. Someone you help may turn around 10 years later and help you. A story that I tell people, and I told this story last night, was that in Detroit, I met a guy named Rob, and we mentioned him, Stephen and I, when we were talking. But this guy, Rob, he was the general manager of a Walmart location that I literally walked into and asked them, "Hey, is there a manager here?" Because I knew that my goal was to get funding for Stephen's foundation for Operation 55. But I also knew that I could make a beneficial relationship out of it. So I ended up meeting Rob. Literally, a cashier went and got him. We ended up building a real relationship of, hey, this is my goal. Said, would you guys be willing to help me get grant money? I need to buy things. So what I will do is you give me the grants. And when I need to buy the school supplies, when I need to buy the laptops, I'm going to come back to your store and pour back into you too. It was a mutually beneficial relationship that everyone won at. 10 years later, maybe even more, on Facebook. Rob and I have been Facebook friends. And when we started this coffee line, I messaged Rob and said, "Hey, do you drink coffee?" And he was like, "Yeah, I do." I said, "We have a brand that I think would be great at Walmart." He was like, "Hey, Sherrie, you know what? I am not at Walmart anymore, but I'm at Myers. And I actually oversee 11 locations now and let's talk. Like, send me some coffee." So of course we did. And as you know, we began to grow. We have a beautiful relationship with Myers. And I test that to Rob. And Rob and I's relationship has always been a very give and take working relationship. If I went into Walmart and just said, "What can you give me?" That may not have turned out the same way because I'm sure that he got tons of people asking him every day, every week. Walmart probably gets thousands of requests a month for money or for product or for food, whatever it may be. What makes you different? So I think that that's something that everyone should think about. Don't think about what everyone can do for me. Also think about how can I meet one person in this room tonight and me help them as well. I don't have imposter syndrome. And I told everyone this. I don't think that there's a table that I'm at that God didn't put me at or that I don't deserve to be at. And I think that we should think that way. one of the biggest things that I think women especially make mistakes of is having imposter syndrome, not thinking we might be good enough. You're there because you're good enough. And the other thing that I think is so important for people to understand is for you and who's not is not. There's been a lot of places where I've had to stick up for myself, where I've had to work harder, where I may have had to adjust the way I dress or I speak to get the attention of who's at the table. But let's be real, you deserve to be at the table. You earn that spot. So whether you're a woman, a man, you've been in this industry 10 years or 1 year, do your research, be prepared because anyone at that table started in the same place. And I think that that's so important for us to all realize that I think that actually it kind of worked to my benefit, but it also worked against me sometimes because I may have been a little too confident. But that's where I think ignorance is bliss. And one thing I want everyone to know is people are not thinking about you, they are thinking about themselves. When we go into a room and let's say you're on a stage or you're at a dinner with a bunch of people, the people at that table are not thinking about how your hair looks, how your shirt looks. They're probably thinking about what they have to do when they leave there, who's calling me on the phone right now, what do I have to do tonight when I get home with the kids? They're not thinking about how your hair looks. They're not thinking about how your makeup looks. They are thinking about them. So what we need to understand is people are not focused always on us. They're thinking about themselves too. So know that when you're at a table and think about how you can make your best impression because that matters. So unfortunately, I've never had that syndrome because I've always believed in my head that I should be at every table. Oh, I think burnout is real. I do believe that, to be quite honest with you, if you've worked in New York or East Coast, they move a little bit even faster than we do here in Houston. And Houston is a very amazing city that I think has tons of opportunities. I don't think everyone that listens to this podcast is from Houston. And I know this question was from an event I was at in Houston last night. However, I think that you have to decide what your burnout is. You have to decide when you might need a mental break. One of the things I do, and I don't know if this was the question yesterday that answered this, but I go to therapy. I have a therapist. I go to therapy every week. It's my way of taking a break, turning my phone on do not disturb, and having someone to talk to that I know that I can relate to. It's kind of interesting how 5, 10 years ago, people didn't talk so much about mental health. They didn't talk about even self care. They didn't talk about it was like very cliche if someone got a surgery. And now people brag about those things. And I'm not going to say I'm going to sit here and brag about therapy, but I believe mental health in your personal and professional life is super important. So for me, I think it's also being who you are. You don't have to move at the pace that everyone else moves. I've had to learn that. My mom had to tell me one time that Sherrie, you work very fast. Like sometimes you work too fast for other people, and you have to be okay with people. You can set a standard and get people to raise up to that standard. However, you have to be able to meet people where they're at and maybe teach them how to improve. For me, I can get deadlines done within hours that might take someone else a couple days. I think it's a gift and a curse sometimes because sometimes for me, we work so fast, we get results so fast that if sometimes it's maybe a little delayed, then people are like, hey, what's going on? And people are in a frenzy. But I think that you have to work at your own pace because that's the only way you're going to be successful. If someone else tries to work at my pace, it probably won't work for them. Or if I try to work at someone else's pace, it may not work the best for me. And so you have to figure out where your happy medium is and you really have to figure out how you can be the best you. Because again, who's for you is for you and who's not is not. And that's always going to be my bottom. Yeah. The person that completely shifted my career path was Stephen Tullock. And I tell him all the time that, he tells me how much he appreciates me and he has to understand how much I appreciate him because there were times when it was really hard for me to be working with, in that realm, right? Of the NFL, of competing, of even competing against guys that have been in the business way longer than me. And I remember there was an incident that happened, and he went and spoke to someone at the Lions and was like, listen, she is not dispensable. She is my person. She's going to be here and she needs to be respected. That meant so much to me. And from that moment, I knew I was like, I'm never letting him down because he had my back when he didn't have to, right? He was already successful. He was making all the money. I was living in this one-bedroom apartment building at that point, but he believed in me and he knew I was willing to outwork anybody. I'm honest, I'm very upfront, and that I would have his back. That's what goes back to really important relationships in life. Relationships are worth more than money. If you have a good friend, if you have someone that trusts you, if you have a ride or die person that is going to roll with you have to stick by that person because in life we don't get that many type of people. So for me, it was in 2011 when he really put his foot down. It was like, I got you, and he did. He had my back to the point where I knew I didn't have to worry, and that was such a comforting but solidifying feeling to me because keep in mind I am not a football player. I'm on the outside. So you see women, and I give such kudos to like Erin Andrews and these women that have truly had to work hard to get where they are. If you see a woman talking about football, I'm sure there's some guys out there are like, does she really know what she's talking about? You almost have to know more when you're in that realm. Now, I'm not saying that for every profession, right? But in this world where I was really trying to make a mark, that was something that we had to make sure that I did. And I will always be grateful to him for that. And he really changed the trajectory of even my own self-confidence because when someone believes in you, it's amazing what will change and happen in your life when you even it could take one person to really truly believe in you, and I think that that could change a lot for you. I know everybody doesn't like me. It's okay. I do know people respect me, and I think that there is such a difference. Being a people pleaser usually doesn't end up getting you very far. I think being a people pleaser sometimes, and I was one, I very much was a people pleaser until I had to understand that when you sit at a table and you are respected for your knowledge, for your work ethic, and for your results, it is a different type of situation and a different type of conversation. Majority of the people I work with are men. So you have to go into a room confident and being prepared. I'm sure they will too. However, when you can be respected, when people know you're going to say what you mean and mean what you say, I think it's such an important thing, because when you're truly living in the okay and the essence of who you are, that's what you should be doing. That's what we should all do, I think. And so for me, being respected is much more important to me than being liked. I can work with people that I might not be friends with, but I respect them or they respect me and they know that I'm there for a reason. I truly own what I do. And a lot of times I've had I've had some clients, past clients, nobody currently, but that did not respect me. And one time I asked somebody, why am I here? Why are you paying me to be here if you're not listening to me? If you're not willing to take my advice, you hired me for a reason, right? So I think that that's so important for us to really think about and know. But being respected is so important. And if you're a person that does what you say and you mean what you say and you stand by it in a respectful way, then that's important. I also think, and it's very important, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. There's a lot of times, and I always say, like, if you're married, it is not always what you say. It's sometimes how you say things that can still get you the result you want. You can still get what you want out of something and you don't have to yell at someone. You don't have to belittle them. You can be stern, you can be matter of fact, but when you can take emotions out of things, and let me be clear, I'm not always emotionless, but when you can learn to really control that and take that emotion out and look at the facts, that's going to take your business to another level. My best advice, I don't think we got to this question yesterday. So I think my best advice is to own who you are. What I see happen a lot, and this is especially with young entrepreneurs, is they try to conform to whatever the stronger personality in the room is. So if someone is a very joking personality at the table, like maybe they conform to that. And I think that you can conform in some ways, but to stand out, you have to be you. And one of my mentors told me this. He said, be the best at your niche. Don't do 50 things. Be known for what you want to be known for. There's two questions I ask people all the time when I'm talking to them or starting to work with a brand. And you should write this down because if you have a brand and you're starting a brand or you're trying to figure out your brand identity, figure this out. Number one, when someone hears your name, what is the first thing you want them to think of? So think about that. Right. When you if someone hears your name or your company name, what do you want them to immediately think of? So for example, Boost One Marketing is my company. If someone hears the name Boost One Marketing, I want them to think they are amazing at PR and marketing. They're great. I need to call them for my brand stuff. The other side to this is when someone needs this, they think of your name. So when I need blank, I think of your name. I think we tend to forget that everyone in this world is selling something, whether you're selling a service, a food, um, anything, right? Like you're selling a house, you're selling your service, you're a consultant, you're a doctor, you are a restaurant. We're all selling something. So what you have to figure out though is like what is your niche and how do people choose you over the next person? So when I need this, I'm going to call Sherry. And for me, it's when I need marketing and PR and campaigns or influencer campaigns, I'm going to call Sherry. I have three buckets. I don't go outside my three buckets. My three buckets our marketing and PR, branding, and now our influencers, right? Because it has grown. We've had to adapt with the times. The same old school PR does not work anymore alone. You have to build on what you can do. You have to adapt. You have to pivot. So when you're trying to figure out who you are, you really need to hone in and say, who am I? What do I want to be known for? So that's what I think you need to do with your business, with your brand. It's so important to have that really clear. Because if you don't, you're going to be maneuvering and moving wherever the wind blows. And I don't think that that's going to really produce the results that you want. You can do a fad, you can do a trend, but I'm going to tell you that doesn't stick. Anything can be a trend, right? We see TikTok trends. There's a trend right now for landlines coming into houses. How long do y'all really think that's going to last? So if you want to start a landline phone company, you may be great for a couple months, but what's your longevity on? What are you going to do next? Are you going to make custom ones? Are you going to grow? Are you going to adapt? We're about to be in the holiday season. I just had a call with my team on the way over here and said, we need to start thinking about right now, what is everybody going to be pushing out for November? What are we doing? What are we doing for December? You have to think ahead, but you have to know who you are. So, for example, if you're a restaurant, it might behoove you to give away food for Thanksgiving. I don't know if a restaurant would want to do something that maybe a doctor would do, giving free eye exams. So, let's think about where you are and what your niche is and own it. Be who you are, continue to do that and master it before you want to branch out into anything else. So, that's kind of what I think is important. Not kind of, it is what I think is important. But I think when you really can lean in to who you are and to what you love, that's the other thing. Don't do something because it's cool. Don't do something because it's a trend. Do something because you like it. Do something because you're good at it. This is my passion. PR is my passion. Creating stories are my passion. I love creating a new campaign. I actually really like when I get a good challenge because I think it's more fun. Um, that to me, and then when I see the results, it's even better. I'm like, yes, it worked. Let's go to the next thing. So I appreciate everybody tapping in to me, myself, and I, because today, just like in life, we had to pivot. Just me and my lonesome today. I need y'all to extra help me out for the holidays. Just give me a little gift. Like, follow, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. Thank y'all so much. Tune in next week, and I'll see you soon.